Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. I am delighted today to be starting a new colour along in the beautiful book The Circle of Life by Melpomeni Chatzipanagiotou. This book has been gifted to me by the lovely Helena over at the Colouring Zone. I will leave links to her channel down in the description for you to go and check out her channel. She does loads of colouring stuff as well. Helena has been a long-term subscriber to the cave and she was so kind as to send me this book. This book is absolutely gorgeous. I kind of get a little bit of Kirby vibes from it and I'll show you what I've picked out here. This is the page we are going to be colouring and we'll do it obviously as a serial. I will try and keep the videos quite close together. In the past these colour alongs and colouring chats have been quite spaced out. I know some of you like to follow along and get quite impatient, so we'll try and keep the videos quite close together. It is Sunday, so it's Stash Shop update today. I do have some of my custom notebooks in the stash today and I also have a selection of Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils for you to pick up if that's something you're looking for. And interestingly, that's tied in quite well because it is Polychromos pencils I'm going to be using for this particular image. So I've got them all in the case here. As we go along, I will list the pencils for you as well if you want to use them exactly. And based on some feedback from your comments on previous videos, I will show you the actual colour of the pencil in the swatch so that you can maybe match up a pencil from another brand if you don't have these particular pencils. So I'll be doing that going forward. The other thing I've done as well is all the previous colour alongs and colouring chats, they're now all linked together. When one video finishes, in the end card, the link to the next part will be there so that you can go through them. So if you want to colour one of the pictures that I've done in previous colouring chats, they're all in sequence for you and it's really handy for you to be able to follow along instead of having to go digging about for them in playlists. So I hope that's convenient for you all. So my thoughts for this picture. Really what strikes me is the fact that we've got this beautiful sort of scenery here and we've got the sun in the background here. So one of the things I want to try and do with this is to create the shadows, you know, where the light's going to cast and what's going to be light and what's going to be dark. So that's going to be in the back of my mind when I do this piece as we go along and try and remember and figure out what's going to be in light and what's going to be in shadow. So we're going to be starting off with the sun itself and the sky round about where the sun is. So I've picked out 4 pencils to get us started. So I'm just going to bring my swatch book over. If you don't have a swatch book, they're a great idea, especially if you've got larger sets of pencils, because it's a really quick reference for you to select the colours that you want and you don't have to spend ages sort of scribbling them out. So the first pencil I've got is Cream, which is this colour here. I'll zoom in a little bit, you may be able to see that a wee bit better. So I've got Cream, I've got Dark Cadmium Yellow, which is this colour here, so it's got a little bit more orange in it. And then I've picked out 2 sort of pinky purple colours. So I've got Pink Madder Lake, which is this one here. And I've also got Mid Purple Pink as well, so a bit much deeper shade. So that's what we're going to start with. As we go along, I will mention any other pencils and show you just as we go. Okay, so let's start with the sun itself, and we're going to go with our cream pencil first. With every image that I always do, I always start with a really light base layer. Now the reason I do this is, number one, it lets me see the different aspects of the picture, especially in busier pictures. It's really, really helpful because it makes things stand out and it makes it easy to pick out certain aspects of the image and just kind of separate it off. The other reason that I find it really helpful as well is if you stick with a light layer and you decide it's the wrong colour, it's easy for you to either colour over it or erase it, especially if it's a pale colour like this. So when we're doing this, we want really light pressure, we're not pressing hard. And I'm interested to find out how well these pencils play with this paper. The Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils generally play well with everything, so I'm pretty confident that we're going to be fine here. The paper feels lovely already. So I'm going to switch to the Dark Cadmium Yellow now. And starting at the bottom here, I'm going to bring this darker colour up and round in sort of 2 little semicircles. It's going to be quite subtle, but I just want there to be a little bit more going on rather than just a solid colour. So especially down in here, I'll build up a few layers here. So you can see I'm working in little circular motions. That's called scumbling. It does actually have a name, which I think is pretty cool. And if we just go over this a couple of times and decide how far up we want to bring this darker colour. So you have it quite intense at the bottom, so we'll go back over there. There we go. Now if we bring this round in a semicircular shape, what we're helping to do there is we're helping to make this sun look a bit more three-dimensional because we're given that illusion that it's spherical. Maybe bring this up here a little bit too. So that's it, that's looking pretty nice. So then I'm going to go back to my cream pencil and I'm going to start to build that up and blend in to the edges of the cadmium yellow. So we're starting to bring out a bit more of that cream colour, and you can see that it looks less white now as well, so we're covering up more of the white of the paper. And we can switch back and forth between these pencils and build up these layers until we're happy with the saturation of the colour. So that's purely down to preference. I think this is going to be quite a colourful piece by the time we're finished, so I want the colours to be quite vibrant. So we'll make sure we've got plenty of layers down. The paper's taking the pencil beautifully as well. I'm not struggling to get more layers of colour down. I say the Polychromos generally plays quite well with most types of paper, so it wasn't a huge concern. But when it's a new colouring book, because this is a new book to me, I've never coloured in it before, we do want to sort of test that out first, you know, and find our feet with it. And I find that the Polychromos is always a good place to start. Okay, marvellous. And there we have our sun. So it looks it's got a bit of vibrancy about it. I think I still want some more of this cadmium in here though. Yeah, that's better. Okay, a bit happier with that, that's good. So in terms of the sky here, we can see that there's, the line work shows that the rays of the sun are kind of going out the way. I don't want to end up with a big stripy sky, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this cream pencil again, and I want to indicate that the light is radiating outwards. So I'm just going to take a couple of sections. Now you can see I'm using a back and forth motion this time. So just every now and then, try and follow this along. There we go. That's going to pop out there somewhere. Maybe have one in here. So again, just going quite lightly though, I'm not doing anything. You know, I'm not leaning really hard there. Okay, lovely. So the next thing I want to do is take my pink Madder Lake. So this is the lighter of the pinky purple colours. And maybe this is a sunrise. So with this pinky colour, I'm going to start down in between these mountains here. Now again, same thing, just a really light layer of colour. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a sort of graduated sky going on here. So I'm just going to do a little section at a time. Nothing crazy. Now I'm going straight over the top of the cream colour that I've just put down. So we're not working round that, we're working on top of it. Bring this up here. And again, we'll give this a sort of semicircular shape, which is in fitting obviously with the shape of the image itself, but also this idea that the sun's radiating out. Trying to avoid these little birdies here. And I'll maybe bring that to about there. And then we want to do the same on this other side. This is going to be a really pretty sky. Really pretty. We'll maybe pop a little bit up here. And then after that, we're going to go to our darker colour, which is the mid-purple pink. So again, down in these mountain areas, we can start to lay some of this down. So right now, I'm just following the line of the mountain. Just work out a wee tiny section at a time because that's all we need right now. And then we can jump back and forth between these two pencils now. So back to the pink Madder Lake. And we can blend these together. Again, just over the top of that cream, don't be frightened to do that. It just makes it look a little bit more subtle. We're not going to ruin anything by going over the top of it. We do want this to be quite delicate. Yeah, we can start building up a little bit more of the purple pink colour. So you can see that colour starting to pop out, starting to lift a little bit. I'll blend this out a little bit now. Now the thing is, as these series go on, obviously the videos get a bit more chatty as we go, because once the instruction's out the way and you know what they're doing, I don't want to, you know, put music to these videos or anything. I like to have a chat and tell you funny stories. I don't currently have any funny stories though, to be fair. So boring just now. I want to get that really deep in there because that's a really nice crevice. Can't beat a good crevice. Goodness me. And then we can start building up our pink. I feel like I need more of the purple pink here. So I'm just going back in. So I want this quite rich in here. I'm going to pop a little bit in there as well. I just feel like it needs it. Okay, so the next step is now to get a bit of layering on the go. So I'm back with my cream pencil, and round this outside edge of the sun, I'm just going to join up some of these rays that I've put out So I'm starting in next to the sun, where the line work starts, where this hatching starts, and I'm going to actually draw a line, and I'm going to lean quite heavily there, and then I'm going to bring it out, and as I come further away from the sun, I'm lightening up my pressure so it's kind of fading out a little bit. And we want to do this all the way round. So there's that line. I'll say pressing quite heavily there. And I've only taken it out to about here, so I'm not going all the way out. Now obviously the closer to the sun we are, we would imagine that that light would be more intense, kind of the theory behind that. And it doesn't have to be even, it's going to look a bit more natural if you make it uneven, so it does not need to be perfect. Okay, so I'm going to introduce another pencil now, so I'll just go back to my swatch book. I'm going to introduce the sky blue, which is this one here. Now we're going to go very sparingly with this. It is quite a pale colour anyway, which is great. But you do not need to be pressing. So just starting up at the top here, I'm using the pencil on its side. You can see I'm holding it on its side. So I'm actually using this part of the core. And I'm just very gently starting on the outside and then working towards those areas that we've just done. And you can see that's very, very subtle. And it's given us this lovely, gentle colour change. I'll just work our way around. And see, we'll blend this better with the pink once we've got the rest of it down. But for now, we just want to get that coverage. Missed a bit. Good grief. Ever the consummate professional? So I'm feeling like it would be a little bit darker in here, so I'm pressing a wee bit harder with that blue pencil in there. Again, just in behind these mountains. It may not necessarily be technically correct, but it adds interest to the picture and, you know, aesthetics. All about the aesthetics. Now you'll notice I've left the gap between where the hatching starts and the sun, so that's pure white of the paper, and that's just to add a sort of halo effect, so you're actually adding something by not doing anything at all, which I think is always quite cool. It's like zero effort. By sticking to the side of this pencil, we're going to get this lovely soft transition into this pink area as well. There'll be no harsh lines. There we go, so we've got quite a nice amount of colour going now, but what I want to do is just build it up a bit more. So all I'm going to do is go back over the areas that I've used with the same colours, but I'm going to start with the Madder Lake, the pink Madder Lake, because what I want to do is just start to blend this into the blue a bit more. So you can see I'm still adding colour here, it's still adding more pink, but I just want that to be a bit softer. So the further away from the blue area I am, the more pressure I've got. It's still not a lot of pressure, like at most medium pressure, but as I head into the blue, I'm lightening that up to create that sort of fade out effect. And pencil control and pressure control is probably one of the most important things that you can learn as someone who wants to colour if you're working with pencils, because it really is the key. It's the key to everything, because it means you've got control of what you're doing. So it's something to be aware of. I did do a video on it in the Colouring for Beginners series that I did way back at the beginning, so if that's something that you're interested in, I'll leave a link to the playlist down in the description, but the specific video that I'm talking about, I will actually link it in the end card at the end of the video. So I'm just thinking about this little section here. I'm not thinking about the rest of this just now, I just want to work away on this section. So I'm going to go back in with my blue as well, very, very light hand here, absolutely not pressing hard. The golden rule is it's easy to add in, it's very difficult to take away. So if you do it in very small increments, you're less likely to push it too far and then be dissatisfied with the result. So I'm quite happy with that there. So I'm going to come down to this little part in here now and build up the sky blue colour around the mountains. Again, this is more just for aesthetics, it's not actually trying to be technically correct, but we don't have to be technically correct. It's easy if I can say it. We don't have to be technically correct, we just want it to look pretty and have fun, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, I'm quite happy with that section. So I'm moving up here now. I'm just going to work my way around and get in between some of these clouds. You'll not be able to hear it, the microphone won't pick it up, but I've got Woo in the cave with me this morning, and she's snoring away, she's snoring away gently, bless her. She's had too much excitement this morning, there's been a lot going on. She's finally conked out. She's 16, so, you know, sleeping's a very important part of her regimen these days. But the snoring's just comes with age. I think it comes with age in humans too, doesn't it? Okay, quite happy with that. Now moving into this section here, I feel that this pink just kind of like drops off. So I want to try and add in a little bit more of that. So again, just very, very lightly. I am not pressing hard here. We do not want to be pressing hard. And then we can take the blue. I'm kind of at an awkward angle there and I'm blocking the light if I do that. Let me shimmy this round a wee bit. So there we go, just layering that up over the top. And then we can carry on building up the blue over here. Now again, this is the sky, so this doesn't have to be all uniform and perfect flat colour. There are going to be variances, and because we've got light involved as well, that makes things even funkier. So you don't necessarily have to get hung up on everything being absolutely perfect. Unless that is your style and that's what you like, then obviously just you fill your boots and go for it. For me, things like the sky should always be quite sort of fluid, you know, there shouldn't be any sort of regimented colour. Make this a little bit darker in here again. Pressing a little bit harder there. Now when we're thinking about clouds, generally, like, I automatically think of clouds as being white, and the reality is that they're very rarely white. So what we want to think about is some of this light going to be reflecting off the clouds? And the answer is probably yes, or maybe some of it's going to be shining through. So taking the lighter pink pencil, this is going to be very subtle, like to the point where if I hadn't pointed it out, you might not even notice it. And I know that you might think to yourself, well, what's the point in that? But it's lots of little subtle things that we're going to build up that's going to make the picture look really good when it's finished. So taking the lighter pink, which is the Pink Madder Lake, the likes of here, I'm just going to pop in a tiny little tickle of this. And I'm not going to come right up to the edge of the cloud, up to the line work, because we want some contrast so that this stands out. So by leaving a white band, because obviously we've got pink down here as well, so if we've got pink in our cloud, it's just going to kind of like mesh together, it's not going to stand out. Whereas if you leave a little line like that, then you've got the contrast, and contrast make things stand out. So I'm just popping in a wee bit. I'm kind of almost doing this at random. I'm not picking out, you know, specific areas. Again, it's a cloud, so, you know. And because this is extending away out past the edge of the image, we can be a bit more creative here, and we can maybe put a little bit more in. And you could bring it all the way up to the edge of the line work here because it's got a white background, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And we'll do a little bit on this side as well. So very light hand, small circular motions. Pick out these little sections here. Maybe bring that all the way up there. Look, oh, that's an adventurous bit of pink. So we're going to repeat this process with the blue as well. So it's likely to be more of it here. Maybe some in here as well. Again, just making sure I keep away from the edge of the actual cloud itself. Let me put a wee bit over there, why not? And lastly, I'm going to take this cream colour now. So you can see where this is going. But because this is the direct light source, we're going to be a bit more aggressive with this. This cloud is clearly in front of the mountain, but these parts here is going to have some light hitting off it. So going on the same principle as before, of leaving that sort of white band, if I just pick up these sort of top peaks of the cloud, if you like, and add some of that in there, maybe all the way across here, maybe this one here. So that just adds a little bit of interest to the clouds without really sort of, you know, going crazy with it. We don't need to be doing that. Now in terms of our birds here, I don't really want them interfering with what's going on. So I'm going to pick up a dark indigo. I'm not going to use black. Dark indigo or Payne's grey is a good colour. So here's the dark indigo. As I say, Payne's grey would be another choice I would make, which is this one down here, if that's more of a preferred colour for yourself. But yeah, the dark indigo is good. It's still dark, but it's not, you know, sometimes when you use black, it can be very stark. And I'm just going to keep this simple because I feel like these birds are maybe heading away from us, and therefore it will be like a silhouette kind of thing. So I'm just going to keep them all the same. And I'm going to leave a few little white patches just at the top of each of the birds. And again, it's just for interest, it's not really for any other reason. So nice sharp pencil for this, because you're working in quite a small space, and you can press as hard as you like there. There we go. So again, already we're getting contrast against our lovely delicate background here, because the indigo is a strong colour. It doesn't matter so much with these ones that are, you know, they're heading up out of the actual circle, but it will be more apparent with these ones that come down here. See, I wanted a little bit of uniformity there. I have a little spider crawling across the desk. I wonder if he's coming to say hi. It's a tiny little spider. Oh no, he's wandered off in the other direction. I know some of you aren't all that keen on our arachnid friends, but we are very keen on them here in the cave. Obviously, living where we live, we are, in the warmer months, we have huge problems with flies, like really, really bad. And of course the Scottish midgie as well. So spiders are our friends because they help to control the population, shall we say. So we have lots of spider friends, and we're quite happy for them to be around, and we just leave them be. Jock likes to eat them, so we try and stop that happening because that's not fair. What's even more interesting is that Papa Jem is absolutely terrified of spiders, so he struggles a little bit when he comes to stay sometimes, and if there's one in his room, I usually have to go and take it away for him. He can't do it himself, he can't bring himself to do it. But he knows that I won't kill them, that I won't do that, I'll put them outside. But he makes me take them like all the way to the other end of the garden, like as far away from the house as possible so they don't come back in. It's funny, it just does not like spiders at all. Okay, there we go, that's it, that's quite good, I'm quite happy with that. I'm really enjoying this picture already, we've not really done anything yet. Oh, okay. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is, I'm not actually going to use a coloured pencil for this, I'm going to use a graphite pencil, and I shall explain. I'm going to grab an F pencil. Now, it really doesn't matter what grade of pencil you're using, but an F pencil is quite faint and it's easy to erase. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm thinking about this light source. The light source is there, it's active because we've coloured it in. It's like, ta-da! So what we need to think about now is where our shadow's going to be cast, and what's going to be in the light and what's going to be in the dark. So the easiest way that I find to do something like that is to try and break the picture down into sections. So the same way as this sky was our first section, which is what we've got done, I'm now thinking about this mountain range. Now that's quite important because this is what's going to be cast in the shadow because it's in front of the sun. So it is directly behind this peak here, which obviously looks very nice. So when I'm thinking about that, this is going to cast down here. So if I just take my pencil, this is very rough, like there's nothing scientific about this here. We just want a kind of a rough guesstimate. So I would say, in fact, I'm going to start there. And if I bring this down and we say it maybe casts a shadow to about there. And then the same down here. So that very faint pencil line, which obviously we can erase as we go along, and that's why I wanted to use a graphite pencil. When we're working in this section here, we want everything to be a little bit darker. So that's the first point. These smaller peaks are a little bit more interesting because they're not directly in front of the light source. So when the light's coming this way, this is going to cast a shadow in this direction, but this one is in behind this one, so it's not really likely to affect this in any sort of way. But what I would like to do is maybe have a little bit of a shadow there. So there's going to be like a shaft there. And then the same over here we might have. These ones are likely to be unaffected because it's far enough away that the shadow would be casting way off to the side here. So that's just a couple of indicators for myself. And that's really all that I need. So when we're thinking about what's going on here, the interesting part now is going to come the continuation between the sections. So the parts that are in the mountains that then goes into this tree and grass section, and that is obviously the river. So we've got this part of the river, it's kind of like a waterfall there, is going to be in shadow. But if you start to follow it down, we're in shadow, we're not in shadow. So we need to pick colours that are going to be able to continue all the way from this part of the picture down into the water down at the bottom here, and be able to create a darker version of that because it's in shadow. Now that doesn't necessarily mean a light blue and a dark blue, but we've got to be thinking about that. So that's probably the most complicated part when it comes to light and shadow. But we also have this mountain range here. Now you can see that it's split in two. And in an ideal world, especially this section here, the sun would be in one side or the other, so we would have a light side and a dark side. But this is going to be dark on both sides, and then it's going to go into light. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us here. It sounds really complicated, but once we get going, I promise you it will not be. It will not be. The first thing I have to do is decide what sort of terrain this is going to be. What colour is it going to be? We've got some quite warm colours, so in my head I'm thinking, you know, like earthy reds sort of idea. So if I come back to my swatch book here, I'm thinking in this sort of range here. So we've got terracotta, we've got burnt ochre. So that would be a nice reddy brown, and we could maybe bring in some raw umber just to take away some of that redness. So I think I'm going to start with the burnt ochre. I think that would be an excellent starting point. So we're gonna start with the easy part, and we're going to start over here, because these peaks here are light sources here, so we are going to have a light side and a dark side on these. So I'm going to start here just by putting in our lovely light layer, as we do. Now I'm not going to worry about below the tree line, we'll get to that, but we want to try and keep things as simple as possible here. So just a light layer of burnt ochre down, just to pick out these edges from the trees, you know, give us a really defined area to work in. So literally like tiny bit of this drawing at a time, that's all you need. So I'm going to stop there because there's a natural line there, which is perfect. Now we want to pick out some darker colours, and I really want to go with this, the sanguine. So we're going to use this to start off our darker sides. So for these peaks here, the right hand side's going to be in shadow because the light's coming this way. So this peak here, this sort of jagged part here, that's a great place to start. So we're going to bring that down, maybe to about there, and then we can do the same in here. So we're now putting a layer down to indicate to ourselves where the dark parts are. And again, this is just so that you know, you're not going to get to a point where you're getting confused or you don't know what you're doing anymore. So I'm also going to pull in burnt sienna, which is this one here. It's still got a little bit of red in it, but not a lot, and that's going to be our shadow pencil. So we've got a dark side and a light side. There's these little parts here, then they're really tucked in, so they need to be darker again. So that's what I'm going to use the burnt sienna for. It's my stomach rumbling. I'm going to put a little edge on that there. And then back we go with our dark pencil. So we really start to build this up now. And we want to blend it out because this is curving round, so this side is going to get some sort of sun. That's quite a jagged edge, so when we're using the darker colour we want that to be jagged too, because again it's casting a shadow. And then we go back to our lightest colour again, which is the ochre. Now when we're happy with the saturation and how much colour we've got down, we just pop a light layer of our shadow pencil, so again the burnt sienna, just to darken that down like so. So you can see that's quite rich looking in there. And we've just got the very edge of this peak here, so we're just going to stick with the burnt ochre. And we're just going to colour that in. So now this is like a rinse and repeat process because we've got the same idea here. I prefer to start with the darker colours. If you prefer to start with the lighter side, that's entirely up to yourself. So back to my mid-tone pencil here, the sanguine. Sanguine. And again, we want maybe some little, you know, little protruding parts here. Do that. And then grab your darkest pencil and we can start to bring this down here. And then we can grab our ochre and start going up the other side. So if we use a flicking motion here, because we've got these little lines to indicate, you know, the texture and the lay of the land. So if we flick with our pencil, then all we're doing is sort of joining in with that, if you like. We can make this a bit darker here, so a few more layers in this centre part, and we can leave these edges lighter with less layers of pencil on them because that's what's catching the light. And then we can work away here. Again, just keeping medium pressure. We never ever want to be pressing hard. You only want to be pressing hard if you're absolutely done with that section and it's the last thing that you're going to do. It's the only time you press hard with your pencil. And just a very light layer over the top of that. There we go. So you can see where I'm going with this. You know, it's quite subtle, but it's quite effective. Because if I take a zoom out now, you can see how nicely those are standing out, but you can also see really clearly where the light's hitting the side of the mountain. And that's absolutely perfect. That's what we like. So I've got this next section out, and here's one of my first pencil lines. So I'm kind of keeping a note of that in my head as to where that pencil line is, and I can just erase it as I go now. When I'm colouring, I like to use, I just zoom out again. I like to use the Derwent battery operated eraser. Really handy. I probably need to change the battery in this actually. It just spins round and it's really good for very sort of defined erasing, if you like. If you just want to use a normal eraser, that's fine. I know Ohuhu, I really struggle with that word. I know Ohuhu do one as well, and it's easier to get a hold of and cheaper in the States than trying to get a Derwent one. Derwent suits me obviously because they're a British company, so I'll just take that away. I know roughly where it is, and we can get started again. So back with these 3 pencils, and we'll start with the ochre. So get our light layer down on the side that's going to be hit by the light. So this part in here I'm thinking is going to be darker because it's almost it's more facing here than facing that way towards the sun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press really hard with this ochre pencil and I'm going to fill in that entire section. Just like that. It's one of the very rare occasions I'll ever do that with a pencil. And that just gives us the illusion that it is facing more towards the viewer rather than the sun. So we'll take our sanguine now. So this is our dark side. I've got a funny feeling that the light might be hitting that as well actually, because it's behind this peak. So I think I'm going to make that ochre all the way up there. Fancy! We'll bring this down. Now I've hit another line here, which was the other side of the area that's casting, so I just need to make sure that I raise that. You don't want graphite lines left in your drawing because when you go over them with coloured pencil, it kind of muddies the coloured pencil up a little bit. It's not cool. Okay, so I'm taking from the point there, and I'm just going to go straight across here. That's where my shadow's casting. And we've got this section in here. This will all be in shade. Now I'm just following the line work here, and you can see that I'm putting the shadow pencil in just on one side here. This is just for now. We need to build up some more of the sanguine. Because what you've got to remember as well, even stone has an amount of reflectiveness about it. So although this is in shadow, some of the parts that have light hitting them, that is going to bounce and reflect off. So you're going to get this really uneven light source in places. Obviously the shinier the object, the more likely or the more dramatic that impact's going to be. So that's just something to think about, and if that's too complicated to think about, just don't worry about it. I'll bring this all down here. So I want quite a distinct line here to show that that's casting a shadow. So using, again, my shadow colour, I'm just going to go back and forth really quickly, like this, and then bring that in there. So that's quite a defined area, but it's because of the shadow from this peak. Then we'll just get this darkened down in here. I just want this shadow to be a bit darker, so again I'm just going over with another layer. And then here, this is going to be, although I feel it's in the light, it's still going to be darker. And then I can pull that out there, and then we can start. Yeah, there we go. Lovely jubbly. Okay guys, I think I'm going to stop there today. I think we've made a really good start on this. And I don't want to start going into this part here because that's a little bit complicated. I don't want to stop halfway through that. So that will do for today. The next time when we come back, we're going to tackle this mountain and we'll do right across there and figure out our light sources and what's happening with that. So I hope you've enjoyed yourself today. I've had a great time. It's been a long time since I've started another colouring page, you know, for the channel, so I'm really looking forward to this and making this look really pretty because the images in this book are just amazing. I absolutely love them. So I'd like to thank Helena again for being so kind as to send me a copy of this book. It's absolutely lovely, and I think I'm going to thoroughly enjoy myself with this. So that's it for today guys. All that's left to do is say thank you very much for watching. Please stay safe, take care of each other, check out the stash shop today as well for some pencils and custom notebooks, and I'll see you back in the cave on Thursday for another video. So have a good day everyone. Bye bye for now.